Good morning, and welcome to the First Universalist Church of Rochester, where we are not skimping on the alleluias this morning. Thank you, Brock. That was beautiful. Thank you. Welcome, welcome, welcome to First Universalist Church, where we are called to nurture the Spirit and to serve the community. I am Reverend Lane-Mairead Campbell. I'm the minister here at First Universalist. I use they, them pronouns. Joining me in leading worship this morning is Cass Bocanegra, using she and they pronouns. We have Kitty Forbush, using she, her pronouns. The fabulous and fantabulous Dr. Brock Chesvold up on the organ and directing our choir this morning, using he, him pronouns. We have Jack Cunningham providing tech support using he, him pronouns. Thank you, Jack. And we have both Lisa Gwinner and Karen Labraco from our online ministry team, both using she and her pronouns. Thank you so much for your ministry with us this morning, and thanks to our ushers and our greeters. If you are here for the first, second, or third time, we are so excited that you are here this morning. Thank you, thank you, thank you for coming to First Universalist Church. There is a visitors form that can be found by scanning the QR code in your order of service or in your pew, and also for folks online, there's a link in the chat. Please fill out this form so we can offer you a welcome beyond just what we can offer you here this morning. We're really, really glad you are here. Dear ones, after our service today, unfortunately, we will not be having coffee hour, but we'll certainly have some time to get together with one another. For folks online, please stick around and have some time for a conversation with one another. Before we rise and greet one another here in this space and have some time just to offer a welcome, let us take a moment to connect our communities both online and in person. So if you're joining us here in person, I'm going to invite you to turn to this back corner over here and to offer a wave to our folks who are joining us online. We are so grateful you all are here with us this morning. We are so grateful to be together as this community, worshiping together. Let us please rise and greet one another here in this space, and also please offer a greeting in the chat for folks online. Dear ones, let us sing. This morning we are celebrating the coming of the morning, so we will rise in body or in spirit and sing Morning Has Come, hymn number 1000 in your teal hymnals if you want the music, but of course the words will be up on the screen. Morning has come. Yes, please be seated.
Good morning, everyone. There is a certain story told about this day. Easter is the day we celebrate the resurrection of Jesus of Nazareth, now understood to be Jesus Christ. But what does that mean to a group of Unitarian Universalists? What could these stories have to say to us today? Do we really believe that someone was raised from the dead and walked amongst the people he loved? Do we really believe that people can come alive after a death of someone so important? This day means so many things to each of us. Perhaps it is just another Sunday to you. Perhaps it is a day when your family gathers together for dinner and company. Perhaps it is a day of chocolate eggs and hidden treasures. Perhaps today is the day of resurrection. Perhaps Easter is confusing for you. However you approach these old stories, whatever you are bringing with you this morning, we are here together. It is good to be together. Come, let us worship together. As Janice Mary Jones lights our chalice at First Universalist Church, and you light a chalice in your own homes, will you join me in saying our chalice words in unison? May we be a people of welcome, here to grow in heart and mind and spirit, and may we reach out to serve our community.
Best wishes for a joyous Passover and a happy Easter. My name is Karen Labraco. I live in Brockport, and I'm a member of First Universalist for about 4 years. And Kitty, were you going to say a few words?
There we go. Good morning, First Universalist. I'm Kitty Forbush, co-chair along with Brian Moomey of this year's 2023-2024 Stewardship Campaign, Draw the Circle Wide. We have one more week until Stewardship Sunday, next Sunday, when we will all share pieces of the pie. And if you haven't had a chance to attend a Stewardship Circle, there is one more being offered Tuesday, April 11th at Connie Valk's house. Connie's right there waving at 2 p.m. And if you could let her know, there's no one signed up yet for that. And if you could let her know by the end of today, that'd be great. This is a chance for you to talk about what First Universalist means to you, why you pledge, and share your hopes, your dreams, your wishes, what you might want to see happening at our church. And as the stewardship team has been saying for the past 3 weeks, First Universalist is our church. And your pledge keeps it vital and vibrant and doing all that it does for us in our community. And now if you look up at the screen, Karen Labraco will give her testimonial. Thank you for your generosity and your contribution.
Best wishes for joyous Passover and a happy Easter. My name is Karen Labraco. I live in Brockport, and I've been a member of First Universalist for about 4 years.
Karen, just so you know, we can't hear you just yet. Give us a second.
This technology is wonderful.
Oh, there we go. Now we can hear you. Yay!
Hey.
Special thanks to our tech team, our tech support team for making it happen. Thank you.
Well, you know, this is the Sunday of miracles, so we'll be glad. And I send you all best wishes for a joyous Passover and a happy Easter. My name is Karen Labraco. I live in Brockport, and I've been a member of First Universalist for about 4 years. Spring for me is the time when I reevaluate my commitments, both to my garden and to this congregation. Both are investments of my time, some treasure, and ideally some talents and skills. Now, truth be told, when I make my financial pledge to this congregation, I really am expecting something in return. I expect a vote in congregational meetings. I expect worship that both challenges and supports me. And I am looking for a community that comforts me when I need it, as well as gives me an opportunity to be of service. Like those plants in my garden, which bring food and joy to me and so many others that pass by my busy corner. This church brings joy and support to both those that are within it and outside its stone walls. I personally regard Unitarian Universalism as a life-giving faith, not just life-enhancing, but for some people I know, this faith has literally saved their life. And I am thrilled that my pledge to First Universalist Church of Rochester, New York, also supports the entire Unitarian Universalist Association. In a nation, in a world that equates income with worthiness, defines family in very narrow terms, and tries to create community by excluding anyone who looks or thinks or believes differently, I say no. I mean, we say no. Members of this congregation and our UUA speak up for a more inclusive way. Our presence in Rochester and beyond matters. It matters not just for you and for me here today, but also for the person seeking a life-affirming faith next month, next year, and really for children yet unborn. I think it's pretty amazing to think that we can make such a difference. Now, sometimes people ask, how much should I pledge or give to the church? I say, give enough of your time, your skills, and your money until it makes you feel good. Do what you can, when you can, and it will be sufficient. In closing, I share a quote from the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 6, verses 10 through 12, adapted by UU minister Peter Rabel. We build on foundations we did not lay. We warm ourselves at fires we did not light. We sit in the shade of trees we did not plant. We drink from wells we did not dig. We profit from persons we did not know. We are ever bound in community. Blessed be First Universalist community.
That was beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Please rise in body or in spirit and join me in our affirmation of faith, followed by our doxology. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the source and meaning of life, covenant with each other and with all. Yay. I mean, I probably don't need a microphone, but it makes it easier for everyone. This is a Sunday of hope in the midst of hard times. The Easter story invites us to hope in the midst of grief, to find hope in other human beings, to allow our hearts to break open. And this is why we come to church. To find hope in one another, to find in community understanding and care, to allow our hearts to break open. In your generosity, you are supporting a community here to help us hope and hold it all. You are invited to give online by scanning the QR code in your pews or to drop an offering in the offering basket. For folks online, please click the link in the chat to give to First Universalist Church. Thank you for your generosity.
What fun. Thank you. Thank you, First Universalist Choir. For any folks looking to sing with our choir, they're here rehearsing every Sunday morning at 9:15. Please come and join us. Whether you're good at singing, whatever, we'll take you. We're glad you're here. It doesn't have to be regular. Come whenever you want. I'm hearing this right from the music director right now. So, all right, my dear ones. So there are a few stories about what happened to Jesus when he died and in the days after. Stories about his resurrection and where he appeared to the folks who followed him, also known as his disciples. And these stories are a bit strange. I find they bring me to question, was that really him? Was what people experienced real? So I want to share with you a few of these stories. According to the Gospel of Matthew, on the Sabbath following Jesus' death, Mary and Mary Magdalene went down to his tomb to witness an angel from the Lord coming down to roll away the stone on the outside of the tomb, where they find Jesus isn't there. The angel, like all angels, tells them, "Be not afraid." They tell the women that Jesus has risen and is headed to Galilee, and all of the disciples need to go there and meet him. On their way back to see the disciples, Jesus appears to Mary and Mary Magdalene and confirms that the location is for sure Galilee. So the disciples head to Galilee, to a mountain where Jesus told them to go, and lo and behold, he is there, telling them he has been given heavenly authority and to go out and baptize the nations and tell them all about what Jesus has taught them. The story Mark tells in his gospel, it's a bit similar at the beginning. Mary and Mary Magdalene at the tomb, same scene, an unidentified person in white telling them to go to Galilee. However, after the two women go back and are not believed, after that the two women, they go back and they're not believed. He appears to Mary Magdalene, and she shares her experiences with the disciples, and again, they do not believe her. Jesus appears to 2 more disciples who go and tell the whole group, and they are not believed. He finally appears to the whole crowd with the same charge to go out into the world and preach the gospel and baptize folks, and then he ascends into heaven to the right hand of God, and finally, the disciples believed him at that point, and they go out and preach the gospel. And then just one more story. In Luke's telling, the 2 women go to the tomb. They see it empty and are met by 2 men in white with similar instructions again about Galilee, right? They go back to share with the disciples and are not believed. However, in a surprise turn of events, Peter, who denied he knew Jesus while he was being crucified, went to check for himself and saw the tomb empty. Again, 2 folks are traveling on the road to Emmaus, and a man appears to them, calling them foolish for not believing the women he has sent as messengers, a great feminist moment for Jesus. He begins to educate them again about his coming, as predicted by the prophets. They invite him in for dinner, and as they are eating, they realize this is Jesus. And at that moment, he fades away. They get all the disciples together to tell them of this wonderful apparition, and Jesus appears to everyone. At first, they think he is a ghost, and they get super frightened, and he shows them his hands and his feet. He eats some food to prove he is real. Then he reminds them of his teachings and the messages they are to carry forth, and he blesses each one of the disciples to go forth and worship Jesus and praise God. Could these things have actually happened? I wonder what it means to believe one another. I wonder where we would be today if those disciples had not continued to preach and carry Jesus' message to more and more people. And I wonder about the choices people made to tell their stories. The choices people made to get past all of the ways they would be judged and ridiculed and told their experience wasn't real. The choices they made to tell their truths. And I wonder what choices their actions call us to today. Therein ends our story for this morning. And on the second Sunday of each month, we collect food as well as funds for the Nestor Street Food Cupboard. So if you have food to share, if you brought any food to share, if you would raise it up above your head and we'll have someone come around and grab it to bring it forward. Or if anybody has any funds to bring forward, please bring them forward at this time. Anybody? We have some food down here already. Folks have been bringing it up. Any more food? Thanks, Chris. Anyone else? Great. This time in our service, if any children would like to make their way upstairs, they sure can. If they'd like to remain down here, more than welcome. And I now want to invite us all into this reverent time of sharing the joys and the sorrows of our gathered community. If you would like to, you can place a hand over your heart from wherever you are, whether you're at home or here at First Universalist Church, to be able to listen from a heart-centered place and to also connect with each person in here, to hold us all in this circle of care and love. As Cass places stones into a bowl, I will read aloud the joys and the sorrows of our gathered community. All online are also invited to share your joys and sorrows in the chat. This morning we share a joy from Dick Gilbert. Thank you to the musicians and their helpers last Sunday's afternoon's musicale. I appreciate all their hard work with such beautiful results. A joy this morning from Shirley Malone, my 28-year-old grandniece from California, whom I last saw when she was quite young, was in Rochester on business. Her mother, my niece, called to say her daughter was here and had a short break when she would come to see me. Talk about short notice. Soon, this vivacious young adult arrived for her short break and stayed an hour and a half before she had to run to dinner. It was such a wonderful surprise. We also hold Joy from Kitty Forbush, whose beloved sister is getting married to her longtime partner, Dawn, today. What a joy. Oh, and we also share a joy from Lauren Bracken and Adam Crane, who are getting married and celebrating the creation of their family here at First Universalist on April 22nd. So excited for you two. Blessings for the happy couple and also for their son, Jack. This morning we hold a concern from Tom Williams. Please keep Margaret Gallagher in your thoughts as she faces yet another brain surgery in the near future. Holding Margaret and all who are supporting her in our thoughts. And we also hold a concern from Connie Volk. Chris Reynolds was in the hospital this past weekend following a bike injury flare-up whose health effects are certainly lasting. He is home healing up, and his pain is almost gone, yet still trying to figure out what this will look like in the day-to-day. We are wishing Chris and the family a smooth recovery process, sending our love, sending our support for the long road ahead. We will drop one stone into the bowl for all the joys shared by our online community. And we will drop one stone to represent all of the sorrows shared by our online community. And as we drop one final stone into the bowl, we represent all of the joys and sorrows left unspoken in the silent sanctuaries of our hearts. May all be held in the heart of love this morning. Amen. Like the disciples in our story this morning, there are moments when we are not able to see what is happening before us. When we close our hearts off to possibility, to what could be, to wonder, and to where love invites us. In the spirit of exploring these moments this morning, will you pray with me? God, Spirit of love, great mystery, it is hard to take in all that is going on in our world, in our country, in our community, in our families. There are times when we feel overwhelmed or checked out or numb or cut off. Times when we build walls around the heart, rolling the stone tightly over the tomb, closed. Let us give thanks for the gentleness this provides in our lives, for the safety and protection, for the moments we realize we have had enough. Thank you. And yet we know that we must let some of the sorrow in, some of the pain in, some of the fear in order to also experience the hope, the love, and the joy this world has to offer. We know we must roll away that stone at times to allow our hearts to be tender, to make space for grief, to let in what we can handle, to know that we too can be loved and cared for even when so much feels terrible. Help us to find the courage to roll away the stone. Help us to open our hearts to this hurting world. Help us to lean into the tears and the rage and the sadness. Help us to remain available for love, for hope, for joy. We know that difficult times pass. We know that there is hope in the love we feel from others, in the being together, in being known and understood. Help us to roll away the stones on our hearts that keep us from being open to possibility, that keep us from the hope of different days, that keep us from the love of others and of ourselves. May we roll away the stone and see honestly the contents of our hearts, holding in wonder and delight and curiosity what might be found there. May we know that what we find in the contents of our hearts can be shared with others, that the love we have, the sorrow we bear, the sadness we sit with, the joys we celebrate, all this is to be shared with others. For in this act, we find hope and understanding with the ones closest to us. May we be known. May we be understood. May we be open to love. May we roll away the stones on our hearts. Amen. Blessed be, and may it be so. Let us join in some moments of silence and quiet reflection to spend time with the contents of our hearts. As we return to this space from our own inner worlds and from the reflections of our hearts, let us sing our hymn of contemplation from our seats, hymn number 101, Abide with Me. Yesterday, Saturday, I woke up and my heart was a bit heavy. The grief of Good Friday was still with me, the grief over so many crucifixions happening in our midst right now. As I usually do, I laid around and I pet the cats, and then I reached for my phone. I'm just being honest about my morning routine here. I opened Instagram and I scrolled a bit past the drag Jesus memes and a few other things and was stopped in my tracks by slam poet and spoken word author Andrea Gibson. Andrea Gibson has written many books and recently survived cancer. Her writing is both intense and authentic and very real, and here is what she shared. She shared a poem, and I'm going to share it twice. After my friend left her body, I asked her if there was anything that hurt about being dead. She said only that the living don't know that we are not only still with them, but we are more with them than we ever were before. A day later, she visited someone else and said she could see so much more clearly now that her eyes were gone and would see for us all from now on, would lead the way through the dark. Recently, in an interview, I heard Liz Gilbert say that whenever she has to do something hard, she asks God to do it for her. Who is God, if not our dead? Living for us when living feels impossible to do. Yesterday, I woke up with a smile I didn't put there myself. Today, with my whole entire being, I reached for joy and knew it was not me who was doing the reaching. I'm going to read it again because it's rich. After my friend left her body, I asked her if there was anything that hurt about being dead. She said only that the living don't know that we are not only still with them, but we are more with them than we ever were before. A day later, she visited someone else and said she could see so much more clearly now that her eyes were gone and would see for us all from now on, would lead the way through the dark. Recently, in an interview, I heard Liz Gilbert say that whenever she has to do something hard, she asks God to do it for her. Who is God, if not our dead? Living for us when living feels impossible to do. Yesterday, I woke up with a smile I didn't put there myself. Today, with my whole being, I reached for joy and knew it was not me doing the reaching. It is as if this poem was written by one of the disciples in our story this morning. It was as if Mary Magdalene was writing about her experience. They saw and they knew in these stories that the dead are still with us, closer than they could have ever been before. They knew in these moments that they were not alone, that someone else was there with them, helping them to reach for hope, to remember not all was lost, to reach out for joy when they could not do the reaching. It is often my orientation to believe that death is a sad thing, because it is. Those of us living with the loss of a loved one know how tender grief can be. We know the ache of not having these folks in our days. We know the gradual process of reorienting to not being able to call them when something big happens, or to missing their voice and their face at family gatherings or in friend groups. The disciples in our story are sitting with raw grief just days after the death of Jesus. Some are likely still wishing this was all a dream. Others are angry about how their closest friend was tortured and killed by the leaders of their day, by the state, killed for being different, killed for being vocally, visibly different. In the midst of all of this sadness and grief, two women walk in who they know and trust and say something unexpected. They say Jesus has reappeared. How could this be? I would like to believe that I could be one of the disciples who would believe them, but I'm not sure that I could be. It takes a big heart to be open to possibility when sitting in deep despair. In grief, we are so focused on our own sadness and our own experiences, we have to be. That's how it goes. But in walk these two women, and then the sightings and experiences continue. They had to see and experience to believe. Hope was here among them, even in the midst of their sorrow and their loss. Hope was found in the teachings of Jesus and in their actions, actions that drew them into the future moments of the early Christian movement. The resurrection Andrea Gibson writes about this morning is not within the realms of scripturally miraculous occurrences. She writes about a conversation with a dead friend. She writes about the dead being so much more near to us now, being able to see so much, their stories living on in us, in our smiles, in our joy, in our own reaching for joy. It is this way with Jesus too. He lived on in the stories told about him and the stories we revisit every year. He lives on in the actions of some, in the ways his presence brings hope to those living in oppressive conditions, in the ways he suffers alongside those who suffer, in the reminder that people who the state targets are often the most godly amongst us. We have many names and reminders of this in our time today. My heart immediately goes to Tennessee, where we're seeing this breakdown in our democracy and the terrifying reality that people elected to power positions can be removed for siding with love and doing what they know is right. I will remind you this morning, people who the state targets are often the most godly amongst us. Sounds like yet another time where people are challenging the status quo and being punished for it. The stories we tell about those who have died before us are so very important to how we live our lives. I'm wondering in your experience about a time when the memory of someone who is no longer alive brought a smile to your face. I'm wondering about a time a story popped into your head from your own experience about someone who died, whose remembering brought more joy into your days. I have a great aunt Margaret who was quite a sassy woman. Sometimes just bringing her face to mind brings a smile. Sometimes it's a certain turn of phrase she had, or this one time we were in a family softball game and she was so frustrated while she was at bat that she began hitting the home plate with her bat and yelling, "Damn it," repeatedly. She was incredible. I wonder what your stories are. I wonder what joy the people who are no longer here still bring to your days. Because this is the thing. The dead move amongst us through our memories, through our practices. The dead move amongst us in the conversations we have with them, in the relationships we keep alive through our own remembering. She said only that the living don't know that we are not only still with them, but we are more with them than we ever were before. More with us than ever before. Here's Jesus popping in to say hi and offer guidance to the disciples wherever they went. He is with you wherever you go, able to be with more people because his memory lives in their hearts, not just in his physical being. More with us than ever before. I imagine this is what resurrection looks like in our daily lives. It lives in the ancestors that are more with us than they ever could be before. Their practices we pick up in speaking to them and listening, in the old traditions we keep alive that were once theirs, in the stories we continue to tell that shape who we are. Easter asks us to wake up. Wake up to the ways our dead are among the living. The hope is found not in the fact that we die, but rather in the relationships and love still felt and experienced after we are done roaming this earthly realm. Hope is found in the people you surround yourself with, who you move through this life with, and whose deaths you are privileged to witness. Hope is found in the memories we keep alive and the ways we can be present to our ancestors moving. Hope is found in the joy we reach for when we know it most certainly could not be us doing the reaching. Oh yes, the joy that is felt when we know not all is lost. Sometimes hard to believe these days, but it's there. The joy that is felt when we can gather with those who know and love us. The joy that we reach for in the everyday tasks that bring our life meaning and purpose. The joy that we reach to one another for. The joy we know in ourselves. In the ways we learn to love ourselves more fully through the stories and the memories we revisit again and again. The joy of knowing that those we grieve and miss are with us in ways that would not have been possible while they were still alive. Can we choose to keep reaching for it? Can we choose to keep seeking joy? Holly Near wrote in her pinnacle song, I Am Willing, this line that will never let me go. I am open and I am willing, for to be hopeless would seem so strange. It dishonors those who go before us. So lift me up to the light of change. Those who have gone before us remind us that there is still hope, that there is still joy, that they reached for it, and so should we. Even when all hope was lost and their hearts were broken, the disciples in our stories softened their hearts and chose to believe. Resistant, hesitant, but they still chose to believe and found renewed purpose and hope in the choosing. Let us choose joy. Let us continue to reach for it wherever it can be found. Let us remember today that not all is lost, that those who have died are closer to us now than they could have ever been, that our memories and our storytelling and our grieving hearts and our listening are all acts of hope. And in these acts, we allow those who have died to help us reach for joy, even in moments when we do not know how to do the reaching. Happy Easter, First Universalist. Amen. Blessed be. and may it be so. Our closing hymn this morning is actually going to be a bit of an Easter mashup. As I said at the beginning of our service, First Universalist refuses to skimp on the Alleluias today. And so Brock has pulled together a mashup of Jesus Christ is Risen Today with a couple of our other hymns, because if you don't know this about Unitarian Universalism, we'll sometimes take a traditionally Christian hymn and change the words to, all the flowers are blooming today, rather than Jesus Christ is risen today. Kind of an interesting people. It's a confusing holiday for us. So I'll ask you for the lyrics for this one. I'm actually going to ask you to please keep your eyes on the screen because we pulled together a few different songs. But Brock, I'm really grateful to you for encouraging us to really change how we usually do things and bring some new stuff in. So please rise in body or in spirit, and let's join in singing together. No skipping on the Alleluias today. That's right. Please remain standing as we extinguish our chalice flame this morning, and we read our unison words, both on the screen and in your order of service. We extinguish this flame, but we keep its light in our hearts with its message of love and justice, taking it outside these walls to the world we live in until we are together again. Dear ones, I'm going to invite you to place a hand over your heart wherever you are, online, here in person. And I'm just going to ask you to take a look around the room. Take a look at who's here with you. If you're joining us online, turn your view to gallery view, take a look upon the faces who are here. Who are these folks along this journey with you? Who will be reaching for joy with you? Who will be here with you? Dear ones, as you go forth this week, I invite you to keep choosing to believe. Keep choosing to believe that joy is possible. Keep choosing to believe that there is more than what is right before us. Remain open, willing, ready. May our hearts be open. May we roll away that stone and let love in. Amen. Blessed be, and may it be so. Our postlude this morning will actually be sung by all of us, rather than having it be, if you thought you were done singing, you're not done singing yet. It's Easter. So our postlude will be hymn number 29, Joyful, Joyful. If you want to stay standing, let's stay standing, why not? And we'll sing Joyful, Joyful together.